said that I was going to say something about Nityananda and this particular book that was published. I picked it up in India when I was there. And, having never met Nityananda in living presence, it was really wonderful to be there in the space where he lived and worked, and to see the devotion of all the people there in that village, Ganeshpuri. And everybody who was with us there had a really fabulous experience. A lot of people from Norway, some from Switzerland, some from Mallorca, some from America. So we had nice international groups, and Nityananda's presence was very much felt. You could definitely sense him when you were there. His energy, very, very fine, very, very fine, very, very subtle, but very powerful. One person, when we were in the museum there, which is full of his pictures, we walked around in the museum, and it's one of the first retreats, actually. This lady, she said, it's amazing. I walk around here, and no matter where I go, his eyes are on me. So it's interesting. Nityananda was in such a universal presence. And I had the same experience with Rudy, that you sat there and you felt like he was looking only at you, because there was that dynamic connection. And of course, a lot of that has to do with what we as students do. We open to that, and then we see what we want to open to. It's like what quantum physics says, it's not real until there's an observer. So whatever you observe and want has a tendency to gradually become more and more real. So we have to be very careful about what we want. And of course, the best thing to want is this very, very deep contact with your own divine self, your higher nature. So some of the things that Nityananda is saying in here, I'll just read a few quotes for you. First of all, if you don't know it, Nityananda means eternal bliss. And he really was in that state. He never wavered. He could be probably having a cup of coffee and talking with people, but he was never really involved or focused on anything except his own inner bliss. And didn't matter if he looked grumpy or happy or laughing or not. The state was always the same, and he treated everybody the same, with love and attention, until at least somebody came to him with some kind of disrespectful approach, which showed a real ego presence in that person, which really needed a feedback. I think there was a story once of this very high government official who came to see Nityananda, wasn't interested at all in any kind of divine or inner work. He just wanted to show that he was a big shot and use this connection, with Nityananda. So he walked in, and of course Nityananda took one glance at him, and he could see the arrogance and the ego walking towards him. And instead of opening with open arms or with his feet out, as he did with everybody, he basically turned his butt towards him and didn't want to interact with him. So the guy had to leave, with a reflection of his own ego. This was the way he worked. And the title of this book is Chidakasha Geeta. And as you know, probably, we've talked about the Bhagavad Gita. The word Gita means song or praise of. So it's a praise of, or the song of heart space, or the consciousness at the deepest level. He calls it the sky of the heart, Chidakasha, Hridaya Kasha, which means the heart of being. So, there are different words in that, but basically it encourages us to really, no matter what age we are, no matter what sex we are, what color we are, what job we have, whatever we're doing, stay focused on your inner self. Relate to this inner consciousness that you are at the core. So anytime you feel your attention going out and losing energy as a result, getting pulled, into things that really aren't serving you, consciously express your right to pull your attention back within yourself. One of the original images in, I think it was out of the Vedic tradition, was that in order to manage your spiritual growth, you act like a turtle. So you pull your limbs and head in anytime you meet something that's going to disturb you. Well, that's not exactly tantric, but it also, there are times when that's a good thing to do. But we can also, without really pulling our limbs and our head in, we can basically just not be attached to our sensory impressions and our engagements with the world. It's totally possible to be engaged with the world in every which way without having it suck us dry of our energy. And I think this is basically Nityananda's message when he talks about this. It is possible to reach this state of Jivan Mukta, which is liberated while alive. It's possible, but it's not many people who are willing to do the work necessary for that. But it is possible. It's in fact every human being's right to do so. But as most of you have experienced, as I have, there's not a huge interest in it when it starts to become clear that what is required is to make an inner effort on a regular basis. So this is one of the main points that Nityananda is making, is that you really have to stay connected and you have to bring your attention to this energy. And within these chakras, allowing your energy to get concentrated and heated up and rise in the spine until it matures, the 1,000-petal lotus. And as that happens, you're purifying your system. And when that lotus, when that energy has moved up and is contacting the universal aspect of us, well, then, we really have the possibility of staying in that Jivan Mukta state, liberated while alive. We were liberated before we were born, and we'll be liberated again after we pass away. But if we have too much baggage with us, then we also, at least according to the Asian way of looking at things, the yogic way of looking at things, there is such a thing as being reborn, which might sound like a nice thing for you, for people. But what is really nice is to get into a liberated state while we are alive, and then to the degree that we allow that to happen, come back and help other people to be liberated. Become what the Buddhists call a bodhisattva, you really, and Nityananda also makes a point of that. Whatever inner growth you acquire, you really should make a point to share it with other people in a genuine, helpful way, not as a way of manipulating anybody or being a big shot or any of that sort of thing, but as a way of really offering your state, whatever you've attained, to other people. This is the best kind of service we can do. So Nityananda, he says basically when man's attention, in other words, his prana is directed inwards, he enjoys supreme bliss. Now, unfortunately, Nityananda lived in a time when everything was he, so of course we can replace the word man here with person, but Nityananda said this is called upanayana, dwelling in the cave of the heart. That is the goal of mankind, your goal of people, us as people. And what does it mean, to dwell in the heart of your being? I mean, it is such a wonderful place to be compared to, and I don't mean you don't have a lot of social life and a lot of external life and life in the world, but if you have all that with a lot of focus on the end result of it and how is it going, and you worry about it and you get into all of that, which is natural enough, especially when you're a younger person, but if you can be involved in all of that and gradually pull back from it, have a state of witness awareness while you are living your life, then all throughout your life, if you start young, more the better, then you are putting your energy in the bank by doing that. And it might not seem so important when you're young. You have a lot of energy. You can run around and spend it on all kinds of things. But if you can be involved in whatever is going on, and at the same time maintain your awareness on your center, on this sky of the heart or the heart of your being, while you're involved in whatever it is, this is totally possible to do. But it takes a conscious effort. So Nityananda says, living in the caves, that means living inside the body. Do you live in your body, or did you live in your mind? Or do you live in the projected mind on everything and thereby losing a lot of energy? It's a very significant difference. He also says we must awaken the kundalini in us by concentrating our energy in the body itself. The energy in us should not be utilized for worldly purposes. The door of the senses must be closed to prevent our energy from running outwards. By so doing, it will rise with a force in you and merge with the infinite. And that's what happens as the energy rises to the top of the head, the 1,000-petal lotus develops, and you are basically merging with the infinite. And some of you have had glimpses of that. And it's really quite incredible to have a glimpse of this deep, deep bliss where nothing really bothers you, in a sense. You can rise with it and you feel the pure joy of being alive, here and now, and in yourself, being happy in whatever body you have. I mean, there are lots of people who have had what we might call unfortunate bodies, but have really managed to still have a really deep inner state and a lot of liberation. Look at Helen Keller, she was born or became blind and deaf at an early age, a little child. And somebody asked her, she said, it must have been really horrible for you to grow up as a deaf and blind girl, and now as an adult. And she said, well, yeah, it would have been if I didn't have any vision. So, of course, she meant, she had an inner vision. And this is what we want to develop ourselves. This is what Nityananda is encouraging us to really develop, is to see existence from within ourselves. Really see what is important, and that is the infinite, the unending part of us. Not this thing that's getting old, not this thing that's young, not this thing that's whatever. But there is something deeper than that, and you've all felt it to some degree, in the class and in your own practice. So he's really encouraging us to stay in contact with that and to be grateful for that opportunity that we have. And he says that, depending on the intensity of bhakti is your passionate love of the divine. Depending on that intensity, one attains mukti. You attain your liberation according to the depth of your passion for it. Isn't that fabulous? That means every time you have a lack of passion, or you feel that your energy is going into something that really doesn't give you anything, you can pull your attention back. In that way, you can be like a turtle. Pull your attention back, and that attention becomes transmuted from what's called kama, lower level desires, into prema. Prema is the love of the divine. Why not invest all of it? It doesn't mean you have to be a fanatic, in any religious sense. You are only a fanatic in terms of wanting to make the most out of your own life and to be able to serve other people as deeply as possible.